Well, Brian, not often do you see a team get outgained by 243 yards yet win the football game. Colorado finds a way, 20-17.
Yeah, not the prettiest game, especially offensively, and in a lot of ways it wasn't pretty defensively, on all those third downs, but credit this team. I mean, this defense was very opportunistic, made plays when they had to, and credit the offense. They came up with a big drive when they needed it today, and the Buffs finish off the season with a 3-game winning streak at Folsom Field.
Offensively, it was tough to watch. It's kind of like we saw in the second half, or really even from the second quarter on in Oregon, them put together a really nice stretch until halftime of the UCLA game. Mm-hmm. But here, the last, 6 quarters, it's been tough to watch.
Yeah, it has, and it's been a weird season that way, and it just kind of reverted back these last 6 quarters to what we'd seen for much of the season. And I mentioned this week that it felt like for those 9 quarters, okay, they've turned the corner, and now maybe the second half was just kind of an anomaly from what we've seen. But then you watch this game, it's like, boy, they're just kind of back to where they were. And I know injuries play a role in this, I get that, but it has not been pretty for most of the season offensively. And today was yet another one of those that their yards per game average, which is very low anyway, went way down again with today's performance.
Defensively, you often hear that term, bend but don't break, and maybe that gets overused, but that's exactly what CU was out there today. You mentioned just being opportunistic. That's what it came down to. I felt like Washington, had they attacked the middle of the field more, I mean, there really wasn't, whenever they tried to, it seemed like they made big plays. I actually thought that CU's corners made some good plays. Nico Reed got his first interception. Christian Gonzalez made a couple nice plays. Mekhi Blackman made some nice plays. He was back in the mix today. It was really the middle of the field, and I don't know how much of that is Nate Landman not being there, but that seemed to be where Washington was successful attacking this defense.
It was wide open, and their big tight end had so many catches today. Kind of joking in the press box throughout the game, whenever Washington would have a 3rd and 12, I'm like, well, here comes about a 14-yard play. And then they hit it for 28. So, they would hit big plays, and that was their offense. I mean, they had almost 200 yards of offense on third downs alone, and the Buffs didn't even have 200 yards for the game. So they just killed the Buffs on third downs. But, the Buffs, they somehow found a way to come up with big plays. I mean, Washington 3 turnovers inside the 30-yard line, which is an insane number.
We came down after the post-game press conference, and Carson Wells was down here just kind of taking things in. He's technically a junior, but I'd imagine he'll most likely move on. He was participating in the senior day festivities beforehand. Yeah. He played a phenomenal game, had a couple sacks, another tackle for a loss. Got a good pressure there on that 4th down stop that they got when Washington had a chance to try to come back and win this game late. It's been fun covering him. It's too bad that we didn't get to see Nate Landman play on defense today, but Carson Wells has been a special player for the Buffs here the last 4 years.
Yeah, he doesn't have that outgoing personality that a Nate does, or at least in the interviews he's not as talkative as a Nate is, but he's been just a phenomenal player. And I will say, you mentioned he's most likely gone. When he was sitting there, I said, hey, it was nice covering you this year, and I said, can I officially write that you're done? He goes, yeah, I'm done. So he is done. He's going to go to the NFL. At least give that a shot, and he deserves it. He's been a phenomenal player here, and he was really good in his last home game. A couple of sacks, 3 tackles for loss. He's tied with Chad Brown and Kanavis McGee now for tackles for loss in this program. Those are some pretty good names.
Yeah. Mustafa Johnson got a sack today in his last home game. That was good to see. Matt Lynch caught a pass in his last game here at Folsom Field. Again, mentioned that it's unfortunate we didn't get to see Nate Landman. It was interesting. Pre-game, he was all suited up, and then they went back in the locker room. He came out in street clothes, but then, strangely enough, he got a chance to get on the field in this game.
Yeah, plays offense for the first time in his career, technically, by getting on there for the last couple snaps in victory formation. And Carson joked. He said, "Hey, 3 minutes left." I looked over, and he was still in street clothes. I don't know when he put those pads on, but it's so awesome for Nate. I imagine it's bittersweet. I mean, he wants to play. He wanted to be out there, probably making tackles and being a part of a defense that held Washington to 17 points. But it's kind of cool, watching him during the game. He's got the headset on, a play sheet. There was times, actually, right before the play that Jack Lamb picks up and scores. CU would call the timeout, and I'm watching through the binoculars, and Nate was talking to Quinn Perry and giving him instructions on something. And it wasn't Quinn that made the play, but I'm watching Nate coach, and that was kind of cool. And thinking, man, that guy's going to be an amazing coach whenever his playing career is over.
So you brought in some transfers from the Power 5 ranks, and there were high expectations. Unfortunately, J.T. Shrout gets hurt in the preseason. Max Ray gets hurt early in the season. And then defensively, Jack Lamb and Robert Barnes didn't play a whole lot until late in the season. But they sure came up big today.
Yeah.
Jack Lamb, I mean, his 88-yard fumble recovery for a touchdown was more yards than CU's offense had in the first half. And then Robert Barnes, nice little interception, and he was part of two. Also had another, was it a fumble recovery as well. So really big game from those guys, and they're going to be back in this program. Jack Lamb's actually got 2 years after this. Robert Barnes one more. So finally those guys starting to pay off in terms of being transfers into this program.
Yeah, I know Jack left the game a little bit towards the end. I don't know what's wrong with him, but both those guys, it's nice to see them pay dividends. I mean, you want impact transfers, right? And we're seeing some of that around college football. Didn't see it a whole lot this year, but for those guys making an impact on the last game and for them to be coming back next year, that bodes well for those guys and for this defense.
Hate to end this analysis on a bad note, but we got to mention it. Lavonte Chanel did not play. You asked Carl Durrell about it after the game. He said he's not currently in the program. It did feel like after this last suspension that this had to be his last opportunity, and we don't know what happened there. I don't want to speculate there, and I hope the best for his future. It just you hope that there's a way that he can kind of bounce back. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be here at CU at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to justify bringing him back. I mean, you keep giving him chance after chance. He comes back for a game or two and gets suspended again. That's difficult, and I don't know how many chances you give a guy. You want to, as a head coach, I imagine you want to be that mentor, be the guy that helps them along. But when you keep giving them chance after chance and they blow it, that's tough. And so he's such a talented kid. I hope that wherever it is, whether it's here, somewhere closer to home, or whatever, he can get things together because he is a talented guy.
The issues that were there with this football program before today are still there, but it came at least in a win, especially for these guys, their last home game. We've got one more game next Friday out at Utah.